give the talk this morning on IT, because it's, you know, in my opinion, it's a very often overlooked area when we're talking about business growth or planning for the future. So I'm not going to take up much of Tony's time, but I just want to introduce Tony to you. So he's an IT technical wizard who works with business owners to provide them with peace of mind that their most important business critical data and systems are reliable, cost effective and professionally managed. After many years designing and managing large scale secure networks in hospitals, where lives are literally on the line, Tony continues to apply his extensive experience and knowledge to help every new business he encounters with their unique IT needs. So I'm not going to take any of Tony's time. So Tony, I'm going to hand over to you. And if anyone's got any questions, if we can leave them to the end, there will be 15 to 20 minutes to be able to ask any questions of Tony when we get to the end of the presentation. So Tony, over to you.
Okay. Can I share my screen, Becky?
I believe you should just be able to do that now. Yes.
Fantastic. Let's do that. Right. One moment while I swap over. Here we go. Share. A few moments while we all swap over. Here we go. Right, let's just move a few bits over the way and start. Get rid of the. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see it loading. All right, can everybody see the first slide?
Yeah, can see that, Tony.
Fantastic. All right. Okay. So this is obviously a review of the 5-year business outlook. Anybody that's seen me present before, normally my presentations are a little bit quirky and a little bit off the wall, but this presentation, I probably need to put my more sensible, straightforward hat on. So if anybody has seen me present before, they're probably going to see a slightly different style today, because I think this called for a slightly different review of the situation as we currently see it. So some of you know me, some of you have met me before, some of you have seen me present before, but why am I here giving this presentation? Even those of you that do know me probably don't know some of my background. So I figured I better just fill in some of the gaps before I start, to give myself a qualification, if you like, of why I should be giving this presentation. So from 10 years old, I've known what I wanted to do from that day forward. Since then, I've managed some pretty large projects and worked in the NHS, as Richard has quite said before. Some of my qualifications, I won't list them all. I will just give you a few highlights. I'm professionally trained and certified in Cisco and Checkpoint firewalls. I am professionally trained and certified in Cisco network design, including several other supporting certifications. I have an ITIL service management qualification. I am qualified in Linux administration, Unix administration, Windows administration. I have also done some Windows design work and supporting certifications. I'm certified in network and operating system design and in Citrix MetaFrame enterprise administration. I'm a Sophos engineer. I'm Prince 2 project management certified, and most of my work has been done on large scale. I have 2 US and European patents for secure technologies that I fairly recently, over the last few years, have attained. And some of the larger scale projects I typically have worked on are things like, I built 4 data centers for the NHS. I worked on the national program as their technical architecture in the technical architecture group, certifying national program work. And I also built several robotic labs for diagnostic testing and robotic dispensing of medication. That's just some of the highlights, but basically I apply some of this know-how and knowledge into what I do every day now. And that's really most of my job is focused around strategic advice, guidance, and as Richard said earlier, I also fix printers when they break down. but that sort of stuff is always backed up, if you like, by giving people strategic advice and guidance as we move along. So just to put this sort of presentation into perspective, I liked this Charles Dickens quote. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. The rest of the quote goes on. But I think COVID-5 has actually brought out the best and the worst in some people. I also think that from business point of view, those who plan, those who have had an approach to making changes, adapting, looking at what might be on the horizon when we come out the other side, those are the businesses that are in the best positions now and will be in the best positions going forward. And if we can take some of that sort of knowledge and know-how and look at what might be coming, then hopefully people listening to this presentation might find that they themselves find themselves in a slightly better position going forward when we think about what might be happening over the next 5 years. So what are the big boys and girls saying out there? Well, if you Googled what's coming in IT over the next 5 years, these things will come up from all of the big players, the likes of Gartner and Forbes and Deloitte. They will all be saying very similar things. And yes, these are the things that might be coming, but they might not make any sense. I'll just spend a little while, if I can, just talking about each of these things. So artificial intelligence and what it actually means. It's basically making computers do things that people can do. Okay, it breaks down to that. Can we get them to do tasks that computers typically would that people would do in the past? I'll break this down a bit further in a while. Internet of Things, other things that you wouldn't normally connect to the network, connecting to the network. Your fridges, your cookers, your toasters. Yes, this stuff is real. I'll explain how this might all hang together in a little while. But more things now. We're connecting doorbells. We're connecting things that we talk to in our kitchens. All of these things are the Internet of Things, the other things, sensors and software that you might connect to the network. The blockchain. If people aren't aware of what the blockchain is, basically it's a distributed, decentralized public ledger. It's just something that everyone can look in and validate if things have happened or not. Okay, and that is a public document. It's often connected with crypto coins, and we'll speak a bit more about those sorts of services in a little while, but that's all the blockchain is. Extended reality, we used to call this stuff virtual reality, but they're now merging the two things together. So instead of being in a completely virtual world, we're now seeing a world that's merged of reality and virtual parts of it, and we'll explain how some of this fits together. Machine learning, this is where you get your computer and you throw a whole ton of data into it until it learns how to do things on its own in a better way that humans can. It might be predicting things, it might be looking at results for things, and it might be learning how you operate and use your services. And then the cloud services, well, most people are aware what the cloud is. It's just a bunch of remote servers somewhere on the internet that are providing some kind of service to you, whether that's backup recovery, whether it's an email system, whether it's a CRM system, whatever that cloud service might be, it's provided remotely, not on your site. Now, why is any of this stuff sort of important? Because we take that high level stuff and we have to break it down into what actually that really means. Otherwise, we're all just looking at these high level terms, high level names that don't really mean anything to any of us. And part of my job is to break that down and to put that into common terms and common ways that we might interact with some of this stuff. So that's what predominantly my talk is going to be about, and how we might break some of this stuff down. So what might we see over the next 5 years? Well, I think we will definitely be connecting to the network in a very different way. At the moment, we're all traditionally hardwired to the network. We all connect via our broadband lines at home. And of course, I come from an era where none of that existed. Okay, I come from an era where we used to have just pieces of wire joining bits of kit. And then predominantly that would move into modem, dial-up over the phone line. but things have definitely moved on significantly. And 5G is a bit of a game changer. It's a game changer because the kind of bandwidth that can be provided to a wireless connection will be huge. It will be massive. It will be the equivalent of fiber connections of today. So what kind of services might that change? What kind of services that don't exist now might be able to be provided on a mobile platform? One of those platforms that is being developed is the Starlink satellite system. Now, this all sounds a bit pie in the sky. And this is where I'm going to try and just jump in and out of this presentation to just show you a little bit about how real this stuff actually is. Because I don't like pie in the sky. We like real stuff. So if I can get rid of my floating, and I will jump into, can I stop my presentation is the next thing. Yes, I can. Okay, so I'm out of my presentation. You should be able to see that. This is the Starlink project. Can you see my screens? Can you give me a thumbs up? Because I'm not sure I can hear you. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so this is real. This is done by the same guys. This is done by the same guys who puts rockets into the sky. This is Elon Musk and his team. And they are putting up these small satellites to provide network connectivity to the entire globe. This is not in the future. They're already, look, these things are already in the sky. You can already go out on dark nights and see them tracking across the sky with an app on your phone. They're already providing network services to northern the US and Canada, and by the rest of the world by 2021. So this stuff is not, fictional. This is not, this is not made up rather stuff. This is stuff that's being delivered right now. And they're going to do this at a cost that will compete with everyday connectivity. This is not going to be, tens of dollars a megabyte. This is going to be tens of dollars a month to provide this kind of service. So it's not as if this stuff is too far in the future. Okay, now the secret is, can I jump back into my presentation? Okay, so while that's just loading, so we're going to connect in a very different way to our network. Oh, I've jumped forward a bit. Let me go back. So what's coming next after the way that we connect to our network? Well, telephony is changing. Voice services are changing. BT have already announced that they will be closing down their ISDN and PSTN public switch telephone network by 2025. That will impact every single business on this planet. This will impact every single domestic user on the planet. They will all have to go and get their communications in a different way. And BT have already started phoning some businesses and saying, did you know this is happening? You need to do something about it. Think about how much time or how much investment you've made in the telephone number that might be associated with your business. It's on every piece of marketing material that you've ever produced. It's on every email footer. It's in everybody's contact list. It's in everybody's business card. It's on every pop-up banner you've ever produced. That BT number is prevalent out there in the world for people to be able to get hold of you. How are you going to manage that if BT pull the rug from under your feet? Okay, you can port them, you can move them, but you will need to move them and it will need to be managed. And this is happening, as I say, they want to switch off that service by 2025. So what else can we look at instead of the traditional BT copper services? Well, cloud services are here. They've been here for some time. Cloud voice over IP. In other words, telephony over the internet. Okay, that can be something as obvious as your desktop telephone system. It can be an app on your phone. It could be an app on your laptop, but it'll be mobile and it will be software driven. Okay, so you'll need to have a look at what voice communications are being changed. The other thing in the voice space that's being adopted at the moment and will be more prevalent in time to come will be chatbots and voice interfaces. This stuff always sounds a bit out there, if you ask me. Someone says to me, oh, a chatbot. It just sounds like something in the future, something that's not happening. But actually, we are already interacting with chatbots. If you go on a lot of the larger scale websites and you get some chat help, the first thing you will interact with is not a person. It's a thing. It's a computer out there answering those frequently asked questions. It's becoming your salesman. It will be able to answer those questions that that you get typically asked all the time. Imagine being able to take on a salesperson for your business, or salespeople for your business. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, these things can be answering questions about your business, freeing up your time and potentially validating any sales leads that are coming in. So these things are real. And voice interfaces, we have already started speaking to many things. We talk to Siri, we talk to Google Chat, we talk to Alexa. I was waiting for mine to go off in the office just in case, as I said her name. Already we interact with a number of things over these voice and chat interfaces, but they will become more prevalent. Okay, we will have more and more done in this way, and you'll be able to do more and more things by chatting to them. At the moment, yeah, we can ask it the weather and we can check on the traffic situation, and we might be able to check our email, but you'll be able to order flights and order business cards, and you'll be able to order and book your meeting slots, and you'll be able to then qualify customers coming through those things so that they will get asked the questions, and then they'll either get passed on to humans or to a CRM system or to the relevant web page, and it will become the way that we interact with more and more things. How will this affect your business? How will this be the front door to your business? That's to be determined, but those things are here and they are coming. So let's talk about embedded machine learning. This is the stuff that excites me the most, because this stuff actually is already here a lot of the time. It ties in quite nicely with this talk last month and the electric car revolution. Autonomous driving and navigation. We see it now in some of the very high-end electric cars, some of the Teslas and their autopilot. But actually, when you start drilling down, all of the car manufacturers are looking to roll this stuff out. All of the car manufacturers are doing things now that could never be done. My new car keeps scaring the living bejesus out of me by braking for no reason when I'm approaching junctions probably too fast. Or if a car's turning in front of me, I know I'm going to miss it, but my car doesn't. And it keeps telling me that I'm too close. And yet, this is just being built into everyday products and everyday things. Autonomous driving will change the way that we interact with our driving ability. And I'm going to jump out of the presentation again to just show you two other things: security becoming smart and assistance tech. Let's see if I can do this again. Hide the floating thing. So endpoint security. This is Sophos. We're a Sophos partner. I've been using Sophos for about 30 years. It's never let me down. But Sophos realized that the traditional method to pick up viruses is not something that is sustainable long term. So how do viruses currently get noticed on your computer? If you open a file, basically what happens is it's got to check that file against a different file that Sophos or any of the other manufacturers are actually working with. And they're called signature files, and they are little matches of bad things. Okay, so if bad things happen, then they create a signature file that detects that, and then they stick it in the list of all of their other signature files. So every time you open a file, this signature file list is growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And to put that into context, Sophos receive 200,000 variants of viruses every single day. Every single day, 200,000 new variants of viruses get seen. Now, not all of them make it through to signatures. Some are false positives. Some will already be detected by older signatures. But nevertheless, that method is not sustainable. Otherwise, it'll take 2 weeks to find out whether your file you want to open has a virus or not. And clearly, nobody wants to wait 2 weeks to open a Word document. So what's the new technology? And Sophos are already developing this amongst a couple of other larger providers. What they're doing is they're looking at machine learning. They're looking at what a Word file, for an example, typically does. When you double click it, it starts Word. It displays something on the screen. It allows you to then interact with the keyboard and mouse to make any edits. You might save one copy or several copies of that file. It learns how that should operate, not just by looking at your learning, but looking at all of the learning across everybody that's ever used Microsoft Word with Sophos Intercept X, which is what this product is called. And then if something happens while you open that Word document that is not ordinary and not planned, if it starts to look at multiple files or make multiple duplicates, or it starts to look at the operating system and check out all your files, that's clearly not what Word was designed to do. And therefore it will say, whoa, hang on a minute, that's not a normal operation. I know from my learning experiences that that is not normal. I'm going to flag that as something that's a problem and actually stop that process from running altogether. And therefore antivirus now can start to look for patterns of work and patterns of systems that fall outside of normal operation and therefore flag it as potential something that's wrong. This stuff is so good that they, although they don't recommend that you switch off the virus signature based antivirus just yet, this is yet to be fooled by anything in the signature based system picking it up where this misses it. And they are ranked number one. They make a bold claim right at the top of this page, the world's best endpoint protection. They can say that because pretty much every single report that ever gets done, they come out as top of the range. So this stuff is real and here already. Now, the other thing that I mentioned, now if you could just go back here, assistance tech, things helping you out in the background that you don't know about. The Google 5 Pixel phone went on sale last week. I'm not even sure that it's shipping yet, but how about this? If you're in a car accident, it will, as one of its sales pitches, this is their Google store, this is just picked off of their sales list, it will call 999 if you can't, if it detects you've been in a car accident. You don't need to be the driver, okay? If you're just a passenger in your car, it will detect if you've been in a car accident, measure G-forces, measure speed, know that you were traveling along a road, and it will assist you in the background. Now, this isn't, as I say, things that are coming in the future. This isn't pie in the sky. This is being sold as one of the actual selling points of this new phone. My car does that. It will help me call for assistance if I've been in an accident. And these things are becoming more and more normalized in everyday use. And how this will interact with your business is yet to be determined. But you need to be aware that these sorts of assistance technologies are coming so that you can actually plan for how that might impact your business now and into the short future. So that's really embedded machine learning and what that really equates to in terms of day-to-day products. Blockchain technologies. So we often talk about blockchain technologies when we're talking about crypto coins. And the future of blockchain to support further crypto coins is definitely going to stay here. Crypto coins are too big. It's not just a fad. There's too many people using it. The technology is already being developed by too many people. We have a guy on our normal networking meeting each week who talks about the Daxi coin. Okay, and how this is going to be different. And there are a number of them. It's not just Bitcoin, although Bitcoin often gets all of the headlines for good and bad reasons. But the blockchain is there to support that. Now, if you remember right back at the beginning of my presentation, blockchain is just, what is the blockchain? The blockchain was just a public ledger, a public authoritative ledger showing transactions to and from. Doesn't identify the person, it just said this transaction is real and happened. It's a write-only ledger. You can't undo something from the blockchain. It's not possible. So how else might the blockchain be used? Well, it's already being used. The blockchain ledger's validating all sorts of wider transactions, especially things where you need to prove your identity and your ownership. It's already being looked at to explore in areas like passport and driving license issuing to get rid of fraud. Once something has been issued and stamped, it can no longer be not public knowledge that there is a driving license out there issued to somebody. It's a public ledger and it can validate you. You can't take that out the ledger. You can't pretend to be someone you're not. So these things are already out there at the moment. We already use a blockchain technology ourselves in our backup systems. We use a backup system from Acronis. We're Acronis partners, and Acronis validate every single file onto the Ethereum blockchain. Now, Ethereum is one of the particular coins out there. It doesn't really matter which coin it is. They've chosen Ethereum because of the interfaces that are available. But every single file that gets put into the backup system gets added into the ledger for validation. And that validation proves that the file was written. It proves how big it was. It proves who wrote it there. And if that file gets deleted, it will put another entry into the blockchain saying that that entry was removed by who at what time. It's an irrefutable ledger that is able to be checked. This is not pie in the sky stuff. This is not blue sky. It's being implemented now with technologies that are available. But how might it impact your business? It might impact your business because your CRM system might use a blockchain to validate the entries. You might use the blockchain to validate your credentials when you go online to prove that you are who you say you are. The blockchain will make that irrefutable. Everybody will be able to check that you are who you say you are because it will have been validated already and placed on the blockchain. All of these things are already available and widely being used today. Extended reality. This probably gives us the best visual experience of something that's coming. We've often heard of VR headsets. We have to wear these great big enormous things on our heads. We have to plug them into computers with massive power. And they haven't really kicked off in the way yet that I think they saw the technology coming. But there are some things that are already here and will impact how we deliver services. We already use, if many of you know that we support desktops remotely, we will come in using a product called TeamViewer to remotely connect to your machine so we can make changes and we can fix problems. TeamViewer have a product they call Pilot. And what Pilot allows you to do is remote control somebody's mobile phone. That remote control mobile phone can then use the camera that's on board to actually give a real life view of what you're actually looking at. And you from your end can start drawing on it so the user can see what you're talking about. Push this button, press this valve, turn this knob. Okay, and so at the other end, the person no longer needs to be a trained technician or a highly qualified engineer that's going out looking over a plant. They can actually just be a pair of arms and legs for you, so you can actually send somebody to the other end. I'll try and jump out of my presentation again, if I can, to actually show you what I mean. Okay, so I've got two demonstrations here. Now I'm going to play a very small part of a video here. I don't know how well this will play, but I will explain what's at the end of it. Okay, it didn't even play very well at my end, so I've no doubt it played rubbish at your end. But anyway, what you can see here is someone in a plant room who's using their mobile phone, although this is a mock-up. And on the phone, the operator at the remote end has drawn this arrow on. I don't know if you guys can see my pointer on the screen, can you? Yeah, okay. But they've drawn this arrow on the screen to point out a device or something that's not working or something that needs to be pushed. In other words, it's taking a full render of the picture from the camera and it's overlaying bits of useful information on it. There's a better example that I like here. This is a network kit that we use to support some of our remote sites. Okay, we use Ubiquity Kit because we can manage it. And what this demonstration is showing, that you can scan the piece of kit and overlaid over the live information, the technician can start to see what's connected and how it's connected to the network without logging into the device, without having to know anything technical. All they've got to have is the app and permission to actually get to the physical piece of device. And they can start to see how it's connected. They can start to see if there's any errors. They can start to see if anything's red that should be green. All of a sudden, this technology is finding some real world uses. Okay, and again, this is not something that's coming in the future. This is already developed. We already use this in the field. Okay, which again means that less skilled people might be able to do similar jobs. So how again might this translate to your business? How might this translate to what you're doing on a day-to-day basis? Well, how about that you could have, if you are a car mechanic, why do you need to have necessarily full skilled people or people in the same location? Why do you have to bring your car that might be broken down into the garage? What happens if you're the AA and you've got a broken down car at the side of a road? You might be able to point your phone at your engine block and the AA guy could diagnose what the problem is from the other end of the phone. All of these sorts of technologies and methods of working that are not prevalent yet, but are definitely here and will be supported by these technologies that are already here and ready to roll out. And it's very hard always to see what's coming into the future because sometimes services have yet to be developed around these systems. But when they are live and when they are already in use in places, then clearly something is going to be changing that will benefit everybody. So let me just sort of wrap up and conclude. What does this actually mean for the next 5 years? Well, I think that people will work from anywhere, wherever they choose to, and they'll do that more and more. We saw that during COVID lockdown. People experience working at home for the first time. We're all now virtual, working from our homes or our offices. Who thought we would do networking by a virtual meeting space? But it's working, and people have realized that there are other ways to work. And I don't think this is going to be reversed anytime soon. And not just because of COVID, but because people have seen a different way. But they'll also be able to connect to the network in a very different way. They won't be tied to their infrastructure in the same way. They could literally be sitting on the beach managing their network. It was always a big dream of mine. I don't know where Bondi Beach came from, but Bondi Beach, sitting on there managing the network, that was always a bit of a pipe dream. But actually, we can really do that now. And with our virtual technology, we could send the engineer in to start pointing at bits of kit if we need a physical presence. Mobile first approach to everything. This one's quite important, and more important to act upon quite quickly. Websites particularly, mobile first technologies, it's what Google shout about all the time. Your website will be ranked now based on its mobile view first, not its desktop view. More people are looking at websites, that certainly in the first instance, and your website must be mobile friendly. If it's not, you're not playing the ball, you're not playing in the same ballpark as everybody else. You'll be downgraded for your ranking. You will be ranked, but it will be downgraded, and you will lose out on potential clients. Mobile phone systems, normal phone systems, applications, computing. We're starting to see mobile phones with enough computing power that they are becoming desktops. You will just take your phone to where your big screen is, you will dock it in some manner, and it will provide you your desktop services. It will then operate in exactly the same way as your mobile phone does now on a big screen, and you'll be able to attend conferences and write code and write documents and email people and have online meetings like this, all from your mobile phone docked to a larger screen. These technologies are already available on some of the platforms. However, if you notice the trend here, being an IT person, it's not going to be anything different, but everything is moving to the cloud. Everything is moving online. All of these physical things that we've had in the past, like telephones and cars and being able to meet people and answer their questions is all moving to the cloud and online services. So we must plan for disruption to that network and how we connect to it. We must plan for disruption to those systems. What happens if our connectivity breaks down? Might we have more than one method to actually communicate? And it'll also mean where we have to secure these problems, because at the moment we secure our work networks, we secure our laptops at work because we're told we have to. But actually, if those devices become less important and we're using our regular mobile phone or our home network, or we might be just standing in the middle of the street, that might mean that we need to move our security to also cover those areas as well. It also brings some other issues like governance and accountability that we might not need to, and we might not have considered in the past. Who ordered something? If your system can automatically order an engineer to come and fix your fridge because it's starting to break down even before you noticed, who's going to pay for that? Who's going to actually authorize that? How is that governance and control going to be managed? If your car crashes and you're not in control of it, who is responsible for the accident? It might have made a decision that you crashing was a better decision than crashing into a whole bunch of school children that were crossing the road. But who takes the responsibility and the governance for that accident happening? So we need to consider that. Workflows will be more agile and mobile, and a lot more will be automated. Everything from capturing leads right through to following up, right through to giving them a ring, might all be automated and not done by a real person. So workflows will be agile and they will be mobile. And whether we like it or not, IT's here to stay. Okay, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, which is great for me. I made a great career choice all those years ago when I was 10 years old. I'm pretty pleased about that. However, everybody else will need to get on board with that concept. And whether you're fearful of IT or you're a great champion for IT, you will need to adapt with these changes. There's one thing that we all know in business: we need to always have a look at the plan. We always need to take some action. We need to review it regularly, and we need to keep repeating that. And if we do, then hopefully over the 5 years, we will be in a better position. I hope that was all right for everybody.
Brilliant, Tony. Can you unshare the screen, Tony, please, if you don't mind?
Of course.
Brilliant, guys. That was superb. I think you can probably all see why I sort of trust Tony so much with my IT support. But we're going to overrun by a few minutes, actually. So if anybody's got any questions, can you just put your hands up so we can just take them in turns to ask Tony?
Stunned silence.
Bob.
Oh, thanks, Tony. That was excellent. I'm not an IT expert. I'm still, after the opposite to you, I didn't go for a career in IT and don't regret it. I have this real problem that and I've been on several of these talks, that we imagine everybody works in an office and they're all linked up and they all have IT and phones and everything else, and that flexible working is going to affect them all and they're all going to fit into this wonderful new world. But an enormous part of our population collect waste, work in garages, work in shops. So we've got this: are we going to end up with a split workforce where one lot are all working in these beautiful, well, partly in offices and partly at beautiful desks at home, and the others just serve us because we're all switched on and they're not switched on? How's it going to look in the future?
I don't think that will necessarily be the case. I think they'll interact with different pieces of kit. You say about people working, in garages or on their own. Garages have been plugging in cars to IT systems for an awful long time. They've been physically connected. They've been plugging them in. Even mechanics of today are not like the mechanics of when I was younger and first driving, where you got a guy who leaned on a screwdriver and he listened in to the sound of the engine and he diagnosed it. Gone are those days. They plug it into a diagnostic tool now and press go. And I think some of the skills are being lost. I've seen it in the medical world, where pathologists who have had 20, 30 years of training and experience now load analyzers for a living and press go, and it outputs the results. They have to be there, they have to validate those results, but nevertheless, So I think it will touch most businesses in one way or another. And even if they're on the receiving end of some of these services, I think that even the lone guy working at home on a laptop will be impacted by some of these changes.
Thanks, Tony. Is that right, Bob?
Yeah, that's. I think that's right. It's. I just have this feeling that we're in the danger of sort of have an accelerated part of our workforce and then a slower part. We've got to bring the whole lot together. So I agree with what you said, Tony, that IT will affect everybody, but we've got to make sure that we control it and it doesn't control us.
I also sit on a worldwide group called, I'm a global member of the Internet Society, which is about bringing the internet to everybody on the planet at a cost that is affordable, if not free at the point of access. Because I can sit here in my office with several screens around me and be plugged into a massive broadband link backed up with 3G and everything else. But there are plenty of places in the world. Hey, you only have to go to Cornwall to realize just how bad the internet access can be in England, let alone the other side of the world. And yet, there are places in the world where it changes their lives. If you go and look in some places in Africa and in Asia, particularly some of the less rich areas, their mobile phone has become the way that they access an awful lot of services, and they must be able to have connectivity wherever they are to get their crops grown, to get their seeds bought, to get their kids to school. All of these things, it does impact an awful lot of people. And you're right that we should make sure that we cater for everybody on the journey, not just the ones that can either afford the equipment or be in the right position at the right time.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tony. Anybody else got a question for Tony? Paula? You have to unmute, Paula.
Yeah, sorry, forgot that. Hi, Tony. Thanks. It was a really interesting presentation. So what's your opinion on schools today? Because I've got a 16-year-old daughter who's doing her GCSEs and a 21-year-old son who's doing a degree. And I gave my son actually an old laptop that I had when I bought a new one when he was about 17, 18, and taught him myself how to use the Microsoft package, because the school was using iPads, which had actually, within the last 3 years of my working career, my directors had tested the iPad as a working tool and within a year gave it to their kids because they found it was completely useless in the workplace. So I was quite irritated by the school to insist that all the school kids would be learning iPads, and I thought it was a completely useless tool from a business point of view. And now I've got my daughter coming along and she's in the same place. They're all being given iPads, so which is really whizzy, and they're writing on them instead of writing on paper, but she's not using a laptop. She doesn't know how to use the technology that's used in business today. Do you think that we're going to, evolve with these kids who are coming out in the future, or is there a real catch up for some of them as well to get on track?
I think the problem's pretty fundamental. I'm a member of the Chartered Institute for IT, and they try and do a lot of work with youngsters wherever practically possible, because first of all, there's not enough coming into our industry. There's certainly not enough girls and young ladies coming into the industry at all, and that's something they're always trying to address. But I've thought for many years that the syllabus that they teach has always been based around funding rather than what is practically useful when it meets the office. Microsoft have had many years of having a predominant market space with their Office applications. And when I go into schools and I do talk at some schools, they learn how to use Office apps. And I'm thinking there's so much more that they could be doing. And they need to be exposed to more different technologies than just the person who's sponsoring the licensing more heavily in that space. And quite often, it's not very exciting. I was very fortunate when I was younger that my year six now, teacher brought their ZX81 along to school and captured my imagination by the thing that this could do. That doesn't happen in schools anymore. They're very ordinary lessons that they're already exposed to a lot of this stuff at home. It's not new, it's not exciting. And I think that there are going to be huge gaps in some of the education, and certainly iPads and tablets, although they are important pieces of technology, at this minute in time, we interact in a desktop, although I think that will change. And I think there will be far more voice interactions, and therefore the devices that we use won't necessarily need a keyboard and a mouse and those sorts of things. Again, in a business environment, that's not perfect. You've got a room full of 20 engineers. We can't all be talking to our computer. That's, you know, it's chaos enough as it is trying to get them to talk to anybody, let alone trying to get them to talk to a computer. However, you know, I think that the school curriculum needs to have a hard and fast look at not just what they need to be teaching now, but what they need to be teaching for when those kids have left school. And I think there is going to be a gap.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, Paula.
Yes, thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tony. Anybody else got another question? No. Guys, Becky, presumably that was all recorded okay, so it's going to be available for people to sort of pick up if they want to listen to it again, and if you want to share it. If you need to talk to Tony, Peter, you want to say something?
Yeah, just that, you know, I mean, that was a fantastic presentation, and you know, this is if this is typical of what you and Becky are going to do in the future, then I think it augurs well for the next sessions. But I would like to thank Tony for all the, he must have put a lot of time and effort into doing this presentation. So well done, Tony. That was absolutely brilliant, and up to your usual standard, I would say, perhaps even better. So let's give him a
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Thank you.
Guys, Tony's details, Becky, I guess we can send Tony's details out to everybody if they want to contact him and talk personally to him as well.
I can do that later on.
Yeah. So, guys, Becky, I don't know where you want to just sort of wrap up the meeting, do you?
Yeah, certainly. I think that, thanks very much, Tony. We achieved quite a lot there, a lot of insights into trends that are going to affect not just small businesses, but I mean, huge businesses. I do some work in the pharma industry, and they're struggling with all of this as well. How do they use blockchain? How do they connect the Internet of Lab Things, they're calling it, rather than the Internet of Things? So those trends are affecting every single business out there. So I think having awareness of things that are happening can just make us stronger as small business owners. So thank you. We will have another Covid+5 meeting in November. Just checking the dates. Monday, the 2nd of November at 10 o'clock. So I will send the link out. Richard will have it on his LinkedIn. So will I, and Richard will also email it around to everybody. So we look forward to you joining us next month. Certainly, if you want to have a speaking slot, if you feel like you've got some insights into the future, we'd welcome that. Quite happy to promote that for you. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you in, my goodness, November. I can't believe it. I still think we're in June. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah. Thanks
a
again,
lot.
Tony. Thanks, everyone, for attending, and I hope to catch up with you soon.